Hey, how you doing there again, folks? Me again, of course, Brandon Wenzel. Come back at you. Another offering off my sampler platter. Yes, indeed, folks. I'm playing video series videos I've been doing for a little while now. Go over there, try out food and drink items. I eat stuff, I drink stuff, then, folks, I'm gonna talk about stuff. I'm gonna let you know all that you need to know about hopefully delicious stuff. That time I'm doing this, folks, I'm not gonna lie. I am both excited and sort of trepidatious about this one. But we'll get to that. Folks, it's super simple format. I'm going to go over there. I'm going to try out food and or drink items for you. Whilst I'm doing so, I'm yammering around about it for a bit. Whilst I'm doing all that, I'm in my back room today, which means we get Peer Can Thunderbolt poster behind me. Peer Can Thunderbolt poster. Whilst I'm doing all that, folks, I am doing something else. You know what? You love it. I'm wearing a super cool shirt. Folks, when I wear super cool shirts, I always like to highlight the super cool shirt. What super cool shirt am I wearing for today, though? Happens to be my Boom! My Moonlee and Yukari Oshima shirt. Yeah, it's a cool shirt. I think I got this, maybe it wasn't Etsy, maybe it was TeePublic, one of those, like, hey, you want a weird shirt that would never sell in actual stores? Here you go! One of those websites. If you're unfamiliar with Moonlee and Yukari Oshima, though, they are two, and they're still both around, two incredibly badass ladies who came up during sort of the late 80s, early 90s period of Hong Kong cinema within an emerging subgenre that eventually became known as the girls with guns genre, wherein tended to focus on badass ladies kicking ass, occasionally using firearms and what have you. And Moonlee and Yukari Oshima were an excellent duo who were two of the best to do it, just flat out. Like, two of the best, if not the two best. I'm a big fan of those type of films. If you ever happen to be interested in chatting about that stuff, hit me up in the comments section. But anyway, what am I trying for you today, folks? What are we doing here? Why am I both excited and a little bit about this? Well, folks, that's because I'm reviewing Boom! But what is this? It's from a company called Nixie. This is organic zero sugar root beer. Now, if you watch my channel, you know I love root beer. It's one of my favorite drinks, has been ever since I was a kid. I, in fact, have an entire playlist called Root Beer Reviews, which is just root beer reviews. This will end up on there. I've never heard of Nixie. I'm not exactly sure what the organic aspect of this is, and it's also a zero sugar soda. So, let's get a thing for a thing here before I forget. Maybe over here. Yeah, we'll do it like that. Something. Ha 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 ha! It's got a little thing on the back here. Pop into a new era of soda, delicious, certified organic goodness with no sugar, artificial sweeteners, and crave-worthy, iconic flavors that you know and love. Okay, so yeah, this is definitely falling in the like the alternative soda kind of vibe. And yeah, it's got zero sugar in it. It's got stevia leaf extract though, so that is a sweetener. All right, Himalayan pink salt. Fancy. Let's give it a shot. I mean, hey, if it tastes good, it tastes good. Who gives a shit? Initially, smelled pretty good. I was like, oh, that's like a nice root beer smell. Kind of reminded me a little bit of like an A&W. But then you definitely got that zero sugar something else afterwards. But oh, no. Okay. Oh, that's going to take some getting used to. Oh, man. Okay. Yeah, the smell was foretelling of what the taste would be like. Because the initial hit is pretty nice. It's a relatively smooth, creamy root beer. Jesus. Okay. Relatively smooth, creamy root beer. And the initial hit's pretty nice, you know, for what it is. It's like, yeah, okay, I could get behind that. It's not exactly my favorite type of root beer profile, but it's not bad. I tend to prefer harsher root beers, personally. Um, but then, after that initial hit, boy, oh boy, does it take on some flavors. Uh, So here's the thing. Like I said, I like harsher root beers, and I've heard some people refer to harsher root beers as being like almost medicinal tasting, and I kind of get what they're talking about. This, however, yeah, you can tell, especially with like the stevia, with the yeah, it takes on a really not super pleasant quality, and the problem is it doesn't mesh with the rest of the flavors. Like if you have like a root beer like Barks can be considered a harsh root beer in some extent, or like Dad's, but like their flavors work with each other. You know, they all blend, and it's a cohesive experience. This is not cohesive. The beginning of it is a sweeter, creamier root beer, and then it just hits with this sort of weird sweetener taste, and then like it takes on almost like a licorice or an aniseed kind of taste. And that in and of itself isn't entirely surprising because like that's often used to flavor certain root beers. But the way that it works, like it's so in mixing with again with that like sweet the stevia and like it gets weird. It takes on like a bitter quality. Yeah, if it wasn't for that, where it really and then like the aftertaste on it, it really holds. If it wasn't for that, I could actually probably get behind this because the rest of the experience is pretty good, and I even do kind of like the undercurrent of again that sort of like licoricey kind of aniseedy sort of vibe because I actually like licorice and I like aniseed, so I like that kind of vibe when it's underneath the sort of creamier aspect and the sweeter aspect gives a little contrast. It's nice. However, once that starts to drop off, and the only thing you really have working with it is that again that like sort of stevia artificial zero sugar flavor, or well, not artificial. I don't want to put it that way because I know they're saying it's organic, but that stevia leaf flavor, what the fuck ever. Once that really takes over, and you don't have the rest of the root beer flavor to hold it up, it really does get to a weird point where it's just not that pleasant. Yeah, yeah, it literally makes me kind of pucker. Um, yeah, and then again, the aftertaste really not great. Two questions have to be asked: would I get it again? Would I recommend it? No and no. Now here's the thing: if I had enough of these, I could see myself getting used to it. But I probably shouldn't have to, right? And the fact of the matter is, I don't have to because even if I want to go in for like an alternative soda version of root beer, something zero sugar, what have you, there are other options available. You know, even from the big name brands, A&W has done a zero sugar now. Mug, Barks, I don't know if Dad's has ever done a zero sugar. Excuse me. Um, so you have those there. Now it does have the organic quality and stuff, but then you have things like Olipop and Culture Pop and stuff like that. This for me, I've mentioned in the past, so the first like prebiotic probiotic, and I get that that's not exactly this, but the first like prebiotic soda I ever had was a root beer, and this was early in the days of that stuff, and it really did just taste like medicine. It was really not a good thing. This is certainly better than that, but it's reminiscent of that experience. And I don't understand why, when we have other alternatives now that I think have already figured out a way to work pretty well without it being so abrasive. So for me, there's no reason. Even though I'm not already not like a zero sugar, organic, what the fuck ever type of person, even if I wanted that, I do think there's other brands out there I would go to before this one. Even if it's not horrendous or anything. And again, I think I could get along with it. I just don't have a reason to. And by that same token, if I'm recommending it, that's why I'm not, because I do think there's other stuff out there that just works better flavor wise. Now, in terms of what you might want as a consumer, if you are that type of person who's looking for the zero sugar organic, that's on you to go over there and do that research. I'm strictly talking about the flavor. This might be that alternative for you. And again, it's not the worst tasting thing I've ever had. It's not even the worst tasting root beer I've ever had. But I do think it would be kind of a hard sell for somebody, especially if you're just looking, if you're just a root beer fan. That's a hard sell because the flavors are just out of balance and kind of wonky. Um, but maybe, again, if you're into that organic alternative soda thing, maybe that's an option for you. But I do think there's better out there in terms of flavor. 5 things before we get out of here. Have yourself a great rest of your day, spectacular rest of your week, monumental rest of your month, stupendous rest of your year. Folks, go over there and have themselves a truly root beer-tastic rest of your life, because, folks, when it's root beer, it's always root beer-tastic. Final 2 things. Number 1, try to bring some positivity into the world. It's not always possible. It is, however, always appreciated. But what you do can't do it all the time. I know I can't do it all the time. Here's what you're going to do, folks. You're going to try not to be an asshole. Now, folks, it's not always the easiest thing in the world to not be an asshole. Trust me. I know it. I live it. I'm out there every day with you in it. Life can be stressful and frustrating and just bullshit sometimes, folks. And when we find ourselves in situations where we have to deal with said bullshit, it's important we go over there whenever possible. Take a step back, try to mitigate the level of assholishness in our lives, hopefully do better for ourselves and for those around us. Very final thing, folks, do the thing. Whatever the thing is for you, that's what I want you to go out and do. Folks, what's your favorite, if you happen to be a root beer fan, what's your favorite zero sugar version? Like, strangely enough, I would say for me, I actually probably enjoy the A&W zero sugar a fair amount, because, and I did review it, by the way, when it first came out, so if you want my full take. But I appreciate the fact that because it has zero sugar, it kind of tastes more like a root beer to me, like a stronger root beer. Mug kinda, but like I've reviewed that as well. And I reviewed Barg's. So yeah, maybe A&W off top of my head. But what about you?